Good evening. This is Hazem Kura with Global Forum TV. We are today here in Chandni Restaurant in sunny California. Welcome. Today we will be discussing one of the oldest and unresolved disputes in the world, Kashmir, and we are blessed to have with us the undisputed leader of the Kashmiri American community, an unsung hero, Dr. Ghulam Nabi Fai. Dr. Fai, welcome and thank you for coming. Dr. Fai is the secretary of the World Kashmiri Awareness Forum. He has been an advocate for over 40 years. How are we looking here? 40 years on the Kashmiri American issue. And today we'll be discussing, well, let's backstep one step. Last time we spoke, we were actually in Sacramento, California. It was 2014. It was the Obama administration. How do you compare today's administration? Of course, sitting in the White House today is President Donald J. Trump. How do you compare the Obama administration on the question of Kashmir and the Trump administration?
First of all, it's really an honor and pleasure to be here, particularly because one of the most respected leaders of American Muslim community, Dr. Ghulam Nabi, who has been inspiration not only to me but for thousands of American youth. So in his presence to talk about the issue of Kashmir is really an honor and pleasure. You are asking me about the policies of President Obama and President Donald Trump. Let me tell you why we are talking about it. Because when we are really talking about Kashmir as an international issue, we have to understand the basic fact. Yes, it is true that the question of Kashmir was raised in the United Nations first time by India. That was, to be exact, January 1st of 1948. But Kashmir did not become the international issue because of that. Kashmir did not become the international issue because of Pakistan, for that matter even by the people of Kashmir. It became international because it was none other than the President of the United States, President Harry Truman, who instructed his ambassador to the United Nations, Ambassador Warren Austin. And what were the instructions? The instructions were to initiate a resolution in the Security Council over the issue of Kashmir. So United States in 1948 was not only the co-sponsor of the resolution number 47, United States was a co-author. The resolution which is before us, resolution number 47, it was drafted by American ambassador to the United Nations.
And what did that resolution?
Before that, it was adopted on April 21st, 1948. United States, United Kingdom, and France, they took the same stand. And the stand is that the future of Kashmir shall be decided by the people of Kashmir. Then the question arises, yes, that was 1948. What about now? As you mentioned, President Obama.
Yes.
But I will tell you something what happened in between. 1962, President John F. Kennedy, he wrote to the Prime Minister of Ireland. You know that John F. Kennedy, he was of Irish descent. And what did he write? He wrote to the Prime Minister of Ireland because Ireland in 1962 was the non-veto member of the Security Council. He wrote to initiate a resolution in the Security Council. Why? To reaffirm our commitment to the cause of Kashmir. Then you mentioned President Obama. What President Obama mentioned, although it has been the policy of the US, but no person has ever articulated that the way President Obama articulated it on November 9, 2010. And he did that in New Delhi. And he did that right in front of the Prime Minister of India, who happened to be the Dr. Manmohan Singh.
Yes.
And what did he say? These are the exact words of President Obama. The resolution of Kashmir is in the interest of India and Pakistan, and the region, and the United States of America. In other words, if you are going to find a solution of Kashmir, it goes in the national interest of United States of America. Now you may be thinking that yes, because he was a Democrat, John F. Kennedy, he was a Democrat, maybe because of that. George W. Bush, February 22nd, 2006, 2 days before he left for India as the President of the United States, Republican, he said, we accept that solution of Kashmir, which is acceptable not only to India and Pakistan, but the people of Kashmir. So these are the really guiding principles of US policy towards Kashmir. So that's why President Donald Trump, he had no choice. Why? Because he was given the briefing, although he does not take that many briefings from the intelligence, but whatever briefing he was given, October 23rd, 2016, in New Jersey, what did he say? He said, I will be honored, the exact wording of President Donald Trump, I will be honored to mediate between India and Pakistan. Why? To help resolve that hot, tender box of Kashmir. John F. Kennedy did not do anything. President Obama did not do anything. And we do not know whether President Trump is going to do anything or not. But what is really more important for Kashmiri Americans, what is really more important for the people who really want to be the friend of the cause of Kashmir, that the principal aspect of Kashmir, there is a global unanimity that the Kashmir issue has to be resolved. A global consensus. And I will tell you, NAM is the second largest important international forum. It has 113 member countries are the member of NAM, Non-Aligned Movement.
Yes.
When they met in Durban,
and this was what year approximately?
Nelson Mandela was the president. And Nelson Mandela, not as the president of South Africa, which he was, but as the chairman of Non-Aligned Movement, right in front of the podium, with some deliberate attempt, they had kept the Prime Minister of India and Benazir Bhutto, she was the Prime Minister. They have kept them together, right in front of President Nelson Mandela. And here he goes as the chairman of NAM, inaugural speech. We should lend all the strength what we have for the peaceful resolution of the Kashmir issue. Who made him to say that? Vladimir Putin. You were just telling me that they are the friend of India. In international relations, there is no friendship, there is no enmity. He said India and Pakistan, as the president he said, India and Pakistan must resolve the issue of Kashmir. Why? For the sake of international peace and security. So my point to you is whether President Donald Trump is going to do anything or not, but when it comes to the principal aspect of Kashmir, whether it is President Obama, President Donald Trump, President Bush, or for that matter anyone else, so they really feel that the resolution of Kashmir is going to be very important. You know why? For the success of bringing peace and stability to the region of Afghanistan.
You mentioned actually the peace and stability of Afghanistan, which we've been there now since, I believe, 2002. So Kashmir is in a very unique position. It is surrounded by 3 nuclear powers. So when you say that this is a geopolitical imperative for the sake of peace globally as well as in the area, 3 global powers that have nuclear weapons surround Kashmir. But the question is, rhetorically, while Trump and Obama and George Bush all support rhetorically what you have mentioned, a tripartite solution, the solution of where all 3 governments, Pakistan, India, and the Kashmiri people, they have to agree to it. So the question is, how do we move from rhetoric on behalf of the leaders of the United States and world leaders to now actually having substantive positions and actions to bring about a resolution to perhaps one of the oldest world conflicts? How do we go beyond? In South Africa, They had to have, there was boycotts, there were the world government supported to a great extent the efforts by the South African people. How do we, how does the Kashmiri people, I should say, resolve this issue? How do we get leaders of governments like the United States to go beyond rhetoric? What is the way forward to resolving this conflict?
And there's a historical background for that, because the person who is in charge of the indigenous militancy in Kashmir, his name is Sayyid Salahuddin. Sayyid Salahuddin is the person who contested his election in the Kashmir Parliament, in the Kashmir Assembly. And he was winning by 14,000 votes. He was winning. And by the end of the day, they announced that Sayyid Salahuddin is losing by 14,000 votes. Then he is the one who picked up the gun. So he was forced to pick up the gun, while he wanted to find a resolution through the democratic means. But today, when I am talking to you, that militancy is not in Kashmir.
It's not the ballot or the bullet. There is another way besides it.
No, that's what I am saying. In 2008, there was a conscious and deliberate attempt, not by the leadership of Kashmir, but by the youth of Kashmir in 2008. And they came, one of the most respected leader of Kashmiri freedom struggle, resistance struggle is Sayyid Ali Gilani. The youth came to him in 2008 and took him out of his home. He said, please lead us. And they had only two demands. Number one, no compromise on principle. Number two, gun has no place in the freedom struggle. It has to be the peaceful. What was immediate impact? Immediate impact was, I will give just two examples. Veer Sanghvi. Veer Sanghvi is not a man on the street. Veer Sanghvi was the editor of Hindustan Times, 155 years old newspaper of India. It has circulation 5 times more than the New York Times. He wrote in Hindustan Times the exact wording after this revolution came to Kashmir in 2008. He said, why do we need to hang on to Kashmir if they do not want to be with us? Let us have a referendum. If they want to be with us, they are most welcome. If they don't, then we have no moral authority to force them. Then he concluded the article by saying, this is time to think unthinkable. This was Hindustan Times. Another person is Swaminathan Iyer. He is most of the time in Washington. He wrote in Times of India, which is also second largest circulated newspaper in India, Times of India. And he said, we have given the Kashmiri people promise. They will have a referendum. Let us have one. I am giving the exact quote of Swaminathan Iyer in Times of India. Let us have one. Let us give them 3 choices: to go to India, to go to Pakistan, or to remain independent. Then he said, let the people of Kashmir decide, not the armies of India and Pakistan. My point is, yes, it is very important that we need the support of the United States. But I am telling you, much more important than that is the support from the public square of India. These are, I am giving you 2 examples, but there are at least hundreds, if not thousands, of examples of the people in India who are really the shapers of public opinion. They have come to the public now. Now is the time that we have to find the solution of the Kashmir problem. What we want? You said that India and Pakistan and Kashmir, they are talking. No, they are not talking. India and Pakistan are talking. They have never included the Kashmiri leadership in that.
But for a solution, it has to be.
There have been 150 official round of talks between India and Pakistan. 150. And we are talking about Kashmir. What does that mean? That means they all failed. You know why they failed? Because they never included the Kashmiri leadership. There have been talks between Kashmiris and Indians. Without giving the names, because you may not know the names of them. Sheikh Abdullah, who was the founding Prime Minister of Kashmir, he and the founding Prime Minister of India, Nehru, they had the talks. They failed. Why? because they did not include Pakistan. So no two parties can settle the issue of Kashmir. So we are saying to the United States, for that matter to everybody, we are not really against the bilateral talks between India and Pakistan. But we have seen it for the last 70 years. They had 150 rounds of talks, they failed. Now is the time that you need to include the Kashmiri leadership in the talks. Now they will ask you, yes, we are willing. Who do we want to include? I will give you one example. We have one leader, I mentioned his name, Sayyid Ali Gilani. Today, when I am talking to you, he just completed in March of this year 8 years house imprisonment. He has never been allowed to make Salatul Jummah for the last 8 years. So if he is not a leader, then why he is house arrest? You tell me that. Sayyid Ali Gilani, he was cancer patient 7-8 years back. May Allah bless him. He is now in good health. When he came back, he had some issues in Bombay. He came back. And I got a call from another leader of Kashmir, which is Muhammad Yasin Malik. Equally important. And he called me, he said, did you talk to Sayyid Ali Gilani? I said, why? He said, I have never seen such a reception of any leader when he came from India to Kashmir. More than 150,000 people were there to receive him. We had Burhan Wani, not an old leader, 22 years old man. 22 years youth, he got killed. There are more than 100 reports in Indian newspapers. In his funeral, there were more than 400,000 people. And there were more than 200 Salatul Gaibana. And same month, this is Allah's, Allah has his own plan. The same month, the Chief Minister of Kashmir, he passed away. His name was Mufti Muhammad Saeed. And he was not only the Chief Minister, he has also been the Federal Interior Minister. He was the Interior Minister of India in 1990. So he was a very powerful person. He also died. You go and see the archives of NDTV. IBN is the partnership of CNN. Go and watch any newspaper. There were less than 6,000 people in his janazah. And here you have Burhan Wani, who is the leader of Kashmiri resistance, 22 years old. He has 400,000. By the way, he was killed in a town. Not even a town, it's a big village, you can call it. It's known as Tral. I have visited Tral myself. The total population of Tral cannot be more than 8 or 10,000. And Indian press is reporting 400,000 people came to funeral. Who were they? They came from the distant villages, they came from the distant towns. And here you have the Chief Minister of Kashmir, and then NDTV in one of their talk shows, they say that even those 6,000 people, they were not Kashmiris. They were the army in civilian uniform. So what I am saying that the Kashmiri people, they have to be included in the talks. So without, and they have made it clear, Sayyid Ali Gilani, Miraj Umar Farooq, Muhammad Yasin Malik, this is our trio, this is our leadership. They made it clear, if India and Pakistan reach a settlement of their own, we are going to reject it, no matter what the settlement is. Because we don't want any settlement to be imposed on the people of Kashmir. But instead, if we are the part of the negotiations with India and Pakistan, whatever the settlement of the issue of Kashmir, whatever, as long as we are there, as long as the Kashmiri leadership is there, we are going to make the people of Kashmir accept that solution. So it's a very logical thing. So India and Pakistan, they cannot impose any solution to the Kashmiris, so Kashmiri people have to be a part of it. And another thing I will tell you. India says there is only one solution. That is Kashmir, which is with us, is the integral part of India. And the Kashmir, which is with Pakistan, it has to be the part of India today or tomorrow. That is the official policy of India. Pakistani policy is that the Kashmir, which is under Pakistan, it is not the part of Pakistan until they decide. But the part which is under Pakistan and the part which is under India, that has to become acceded to Pakistan. So majority of the people of Kashmir, they said, what about to have an independent Kashmir of the whole Kashmir? These are three extremist positions. India said the total Kashmir integration into India. Pakistan said total Kashmir accession to Pakistan. Kashmiri said total independence. It is an impossibility. So that's why what we are saying is, short of total integration of India, which is short of total accession to Pakistan, which is short of total independence. And what is that? That's why there are negotiations for that. You have to negotiate for that. The people of Kashmir, they have been in history. They have been most genius people on earth. Have you heard the name of King Akbar? He was not great because he was King Akbar. He was great because he had an advisor from Kashmir. His name was Birbal. He was a Kashmiri Pandit. This Pandit Nehru, who happened to be the Prime Minister of India, he was from Kashmir. Nawaz Sharif, he told me himself, I am from Shupiyan. Shupiyan is just 20 miles away from my place. He said, Kulsum is from Pulwama. Pulwama is 25 miles from my place. I was in Kum. And that time we were in the official delegation. Islamic Summit was there in Tehran. They took us to the Kum. We met the Ahmad, the son of Khomeini. Then he told me that my mom, she was from Gilgit-Baltistan. Gilgit-Baltistan is the mom or grandma. Gilgit-Baltistan is the part of Kashmir. Salman Rushdie. Salman Rushdie wrote 2 articles in New York Times. 2 articles. The first article starts like this. The reason I am writing this article because I am a half Kashmiri. So I am not praising Salman Rushdie for that matter or Khomeini. But what I am saying, the people of Kashmir in history, they have been the shapers of not the personalities. They have been the shapers of the societies. But what we are really begging, the United States, the international community, for that matter, both India and Pakistan, that it's not that we are against what you are doing, but you have failed. And you have brought nothing but miseries, not only to us as Kashmiris, but to both India and Pakistan. Siachen Glacier, if you have heard the name, Siachen Glacier, there are nothing but glaciers. India is spending $5 billion there. Pakistan is spending $2 billion there. Why? Just to maintain the control of that mountain. It's a wastage of money, wastage of your resources. So that's why, you know, you are from very close to Monterey Naval Academy. There is Professor Patrick Larkin. Professor Patrick Larkin. He wrote an article in March of 2014. He said, these are exact words, by finding the, I think, final solution of Kashmir. By finding the final solution of Kashmir, you are going to bring peace in Afghanistan. So by resolving the Kashmir issue, you are not only guaranteeing the peace and stability in Kashmir, for that matter in India and Pakistan, but in the whole region of South Asia, that includes Afghanistan as well.
Well, thank you very much for that. There's actually a number of things that you mentioned that came to mind, but I think going to your last point, the question then is, where is the political will? Because yes, that will solve and resolve a number of issues. India right now is a global economy, but this is dragging it down. Pakistan wants to move forward. There is the Afghanistan issue. So resolving this issue itself would allow all of these countries in this region to move forward. But the problem is, of course, how do we get to that? How do we get the political will? Because there's been the rhetoric again, but not the political will. You mentioned another thing that was very interesting. Currently, as you know, there is a movement in the United States led by the youth. So when you mentioned the 21, 22-year-old young man who is a leader in the Kashmir, here there is a movement, and this is not, we have not seen a movement in the United States since 1963 when the youth there were also leading the civil rights movement and helped even get Martin Luther King and support his cause. And now, so the question is does Kashmir dependent more on the youth to bring awareness and to help resolve the issue? Or are we depending also on the older generation? So how do we resolve this issue? Are the youth the catalyst for change in the next generation for Kashmir?
Yes, God bless you. We cannot afford to ignore the wisdom of our older generation. That wisdom has to be there. That guidance has to be there. But the leadership role has been already taken by the youth. And the youth is on the social media. You won't believe it. Very recently, one of our brothers, without mentioning his name, he came back from Kashmir. He's a doctor. Professor Dr. Said, he knows him. Most of the brothers here, they know him. But for some reason, I will not mention the name. He said the situation in Kashmir is not that good. It is really tragic, beyond description. Can we meet someone else other than United States? I said, yes, we will try. He said, let us see, how do they think? So we were 5 of us from Indian occupied Kashmir in America, and 3 of us from Azad Kashmir. 8 of us. We met not many, but we met 5 embassies in Washington and 54 missions in New York. 54 missions in New York. I was, honest to God, surprised and pleased. First, that they gave us an appointment because they don't have really time to waste. Who are we? We are nobody in the international relations. And secondly, when we met them, not 100%, but they had a very grasp of the situation in Kashmir. Why? Because of the youth, because of the social media. So that's why what you are saying, that not that youth has to play a very important role, but today when I am really talking to you, as I told you, our leadership is Sayyid Ali Gilani, Muhammad Yasin Malik, Mirwais Umar Farooq. But the life and the oxygen that was provided and being provided by the youth of Kashmir, it is beyond imagination. So alhamdulillah that they understand 2 things. Number 1, that it is their responsibility to do whatever they can do peacefully. And secondly, to seek the guidance and the wisdom from the older generation, because we cannot have a gap. So there is that coordination. And secondly, I will tell you, as I told you, there is a very good segment of Indian public square. They have started talking about the issue of Kashmir, and even in the parliament. And I couldn't believe a young parliamentarian, his name is Chindiya, 32 years old, in Indian parliament, speaking in the Indian parliament last year. He said, let us have he was speaking in English, but this word he used in Hindi or Kashmiri. He said, let us have a Rai Shumari in Kashmir. That means let us have a referendum in Kashmir. I couldn't believe it. To you, it means nothing. But to me, it's a very significant shift in the thinking of Indian public square. A member of parliament speaking in the parliament, let us have a Rai Shumari. Mir Shankar Iyer, he has been the 3 times he has been the minister, federal minister of India. He wrote again in Times of India, last year he wrote in Times of India. He said, I was in Kashmir, please. This is not Professor Agha Saeed speaking. This is not Ghulam Nabi Fai speaking. It is Mia Shankar Iyer, who was the federal minister of India. He said, I have just come from Kashmir. Please don't blame Pakistan. This is indigenous. This movement is led by the youth of Kashmir. So what I am saying, that these are the testimonials from the Indians, and those Indians who really are the shapers of the public opinion. But don't misunderstand me. I am not saying that the whole India, the whole ocean of India is with us. But I am saying that these small and important voices which we are hearing today, it was not possible before 2008. So likewise in Pakistan. You will be surprised. I am watching sometimes the Pakistani, these talk shows. So when we have someone from, they always have a cross section, People's Party, different political parties. When they talk about Kashmir, you can feel that they always want to say that our party is excelling before, then you are not doing anything, I am doing. In practice, they are not really doing that much. But what I am saying, at least publicly, they cannot afford. So what I am talking even to the government of Pakistan, that you have a very important constituency which is the public opinion. And you are not reflecting that public opinion at the international scene. You can tell Donald Trump, I want to just get rid of issue of Kashmir. I have no problem because it is a dissent. But public opinion is not in my favor. Public opinion is. So Pakistan has a role to play. The Pakistani, not only the government, by the way, the Pakistani Americans, for that matter, the Pakistani people, irrespective of their political affiliation. In one time, we had a demonstration in front of White House. Prime Minister Rao was the Prime Minister. I am talking about the 1990s. So at the end of we had more than 10,000 people there. UNI, United News of India, they reported more than 9,000 people. So then I was thanking the people from Muslim League of Pakistan, people from this People's Party of Pakistan and Jamaat Islami Pakistan. And one young lady, she stood up. She said, Fai Sahab, I am also a Pakistani American, but I am a Christian. So what I am talking about, the Pakistani people, irrespective not only their political affiliation, but irrespective of their religious affiliation, they have really supported the Kashmir cause more than what we as Kashmiri Americans are doing. And that is really our support. And likewise, you are not a part of South Asian. No, what I am talking about, that the people who are not even from that region, so they have supported. At one time, the Baba Bush, George W.H. Bush, we initiated a petition for George W. Bush. It was signed by 37,000 people. I had a meeting with the Assistant Secretary of State for South Asia. I took 4 boxes of these petitions with me. When I went to the security, they said, what is it? I said, I have something to give to. Honest to God, when I went to the Assistant Secretary, she was a lady. When I went to the Assistant Secretary of State, she said, what is this? I said, this is the petition. I just want to tell you that I am not just saying we have 37,000 signatures. These are those signatures. By the way, I have a photocopy of that still in my office. And who are they? Just see the names. You will see that maybe less than half are from South Asia. There are even from Indian Americans, the Arabs, indigenous Americans. So that is your support. What I am talking about you, when you are really talking about the future of a nation, you cannot depend upon your own people. You have to go beyond. I will tell you one thing. Why it is important that we need to have a support of international community. We have to educate them. Kofi Annan of the United Nations, he was asked a very simple question. There has been this East Timor issue for the last 27 years. And you never did anything. What happened suddenly now you got involved, you had the elections and you monitored the elections and now they have the independence. You know what did he say? He said, because we had a survey in East Timor. And 70% of people of East Timor, they did not want to be the part of Indonesia. So we had no choice but to intervene. I am telling Antonio Guterres, who is right now the custodian of human rights, not in Kashmir, custodian of human rights all over the world. He is the CEO of United Nations, Secretary General of the United Nations. I will tell him that Chatham House, not a Pakistani organization, it is in England. God bless you. It's an English think tank. They had a survey in Kashmir. To be exact, it was May 27, 2010. The date given is not by Chatham House. The date, May 27, 2010, is given by BBC. What did they say? They said 90 to 95% of the people of the Valley of Kashmir, they want freedom. How many? 90 to 95% of the people of the Valley, they want freedom. If Kofi Annan intervened in East Timor because of the 70% did not want to be the part of Indonesia, here you have Chatham House survey, 90 to 95% they don't want to be part of India. Why should you intervene? So my point is, again, on the principal aspect, the global understanding is with us. But practically they are not doing anything. That's why it is your responsibility. It is my responsibility. It's our collective responsibility to bring forth the facts. Nothing else. Suppose I can tell you with fullest consciousness that the movement in Kashmir, it is not fundamentalism. The movement in Kashmir, it is not terrorism. The movement in Kashmir, it's not the integral part of either India or Pakistan today when I am talking to you. Why? Because of the facts. And I gave you one of the facts of Burhan Wani, 400,000. Let me give you another fact. India abroad, By name, you can see it's not a Pakistani newspaper. It is published from New York. The chief editor is an Indian American of Christian faith from Kerala. And they said, we report from Kashmir that at some occasions, there were more than 1 million people on the streets of Kashmir.
And there's how many million? 16 million people in Kashmir.
Kashmir is divided into two parts, but under Indian side, we are 13 to 14 million. My point is this. My point is it has not happened once. It has happened dozens of times, and according to India Abroad again, they had submitted more than 400 petitions to the United Nations. You tell me, 1 million people, they cannot be called terrorists. Now they say, as Manish Shankar Iyer said, don't blame Pakistan. They say what Pakistan is doing. If Pakistan can galvanize, if Pakistan can initiate such a move that 1 million people can come on the streets of Kashmir, first of all, it's not possible. Secondly, if it is possible, that it's a referendum, that someone from the remote control from Islamabad and Pakistan can get 1 million people on the streets. No, the presence of 1 million people reflects this fact. It is indigenous and it is spontaneous, it is popular. And the reason, the mere fact that 400 petitions were submitted to the United Nations, means it is absolutely non-violent. You know why? Because the terrorists, they do not believe in the United Nations. If Kashmiri people, they did not believe in the United Nations, then they would not have submitted the petitions. So that's why to say that. And secondly, is Kashmiri movement fundamentalism? I will give just one fact. Most of the people, they say that the freedom struggle of Kashmir, they was initiated by the Muslims of Kashmir. That's not true. Yes, the Muslims of Kashmir, they were on the forefront. But they were equally the non-Muslims, we call them Pandits. Non-Muslims, they were at the same level to initiate the freedom struggle. I will give you one example. His name was Ramchandra Kak. Ramchandra Kak was the Prime Minister of Maharaja before the partition. He was the Prime Minister of Kashmir. And he advised his Maharaja before the partition, let us not be the part of India or part of Pakistan. Let us remain independent. Premnath Bajaj, he was a historian, a Hindu, Kashmiri Hindu. One of the most important historians of South Asia. He wrote a history of Kashmir. He said, it is a crime. Is it a crime? A Hindu speaking, Kashmiri Hindu. Is it a crime to become the makers of your own history? Is it a crime to become the shapers of our own destiny? Let the people of Kashmir decide. My point is, if Kashmiris are fundamentalists, then why should Ramchandra Kak, why should Pyarilal, Premnath Bajaj become the part of the struggle? The reason they were the part of the struggle, because they believe in them, as I believe it today, that Kashmir is not a fight between Hindus and Muslims. Kashmir is not a struggle between theocracy and secularism. Kashmir is the basic principle which was agreed upon by India and Pakistan and the United Nations and the international community.
Beautiful, thank you. Dr. Fai, actually you mentioned a number of key points. Martin Luther King and we see throughout history a number of non-violent civil disobedient movements. For example, you mentioned in Kashmir that what the catalyst for them is not through violence. They want peace through coming to the streets, 1 million strong. They are not there to fight or to kill, but rather they are fighting for their freedom through their voices, through showing themselves to the international community, through asking for something very reasonable. So we see many international movements that have had the same cause and effect. The fact that there is oppression or by governments that are stronger, and yet the will of the people to come out to the streets and to speak and to say enough is enough. So 1 million people, is that enough? Or what is it then that's going to take a country as strong as India to say, let's listen to those people. Let's listen to the people that are in our what we consider our territory. So what will it take to get to that point? That's one. Second, you mentioned a number of key points, including Jelani, one of the key leaders, who was in prison or house arrest for 8 years. And it reminds us of many other examples, like Nelson Mandela, who was in prison for a number of years. So these examples we see, is this enough to get the attention of the international community, or do we need even the international community? And third and final question is, here in the United States, as an American, the Kashmiri issue is often on the fringe. We don't really hear much about it in the media, and so most Americans, if you ask them about the Kashmiri issue, will be relatively uninformed. So the question is then, how do we get Americans to, because Americans are good, decent people, and if they understand the issues, they would obviously, for the most part, support the right of the people to have a referendum to determine their own self-determination. How do we get Americans, Indian Americans, Hindu Americans, Christian Americans, Muslim Americans, people of all faith, as you said, this is not a religious issue, how do we get them to work together, to collaborate, to learn the issues, and to inform the American public and come out to some sort of common understanding to help resolve the Kashmiri issue? And finally, one last thing, Dr. Agha mentioned the UN ambassador to Pakistan, or Pakistani's ambassador to the United Nations. If we can get a trip here, for example, at Stanford, where we can invite Christians and Hindus and Muslims and Americans here to have a conversation about these issues. Is that something that you think is viable and feasible? And how do we get generally just a conversation in the United States about the issues that is non-religious and relatively apolitical?
Multiple questions.
Yes.
Pankaj Mishra, an Indian American, he wrote in New York Times, I think March of 2010, March I'm not sure, but it's 2010. New York Times. No, it is New York Book Review of, Book Review, I think it is, yeah. So he said the movement in Kashmir, it is much more popular than you have seen on the streets of Tehran and Georgia. But the reason you do not know it, he's an Indian American, he's a Hindu, but he's a scholar and he's an observer. He said the reason you do not know it, because there is no CNN and BBC in Kashmir. Then he said the killing, these are his words, the killing fields of Kashmir, they are much more larger than you have seen, these are his words, in Palestine and Tibet. But you do not see it because there is no international eye watching it. So that is what is very important, that we need to have our infiltration, our access to the media, because medium is the message. And you cannot really shape the opinion of American policymakers unless you have some opinion editorials, some articles. So that's why what we can do it here. First of all, I do not know why MSA, Muslim Student Association of the United States of America, by the way, I have been the president 4.5 years, national president of that. Why they should not own Kashmir? Why should I own? Why should someone from this Myanmar come here and say, I am from Myanmar, can you help me? Myanmar is my issue too. Why shouldn't I take the lead? So Pakistani Student Association, they have played wonders. So because the public opinion in America is, as you mentioned, very important. I was there. So these interactions between Indians and Pakistani and Kashmiris, so they can be very helpful. And as you mentioned very correctly, may Allah bless Professor Agha Saeed, he has been doing it, but he has been giving an avenue to all those people that this is possible. So the university campuses, the think tanks, they can be very important platform, And for that matter, when you say Pakistani ambassador, no. I will say yes, Pakistani ambassador as well as Indian ambassador. So I am telling you, I told you that Burhan Wani had 400,000 people there. Why I said it? Because if anyone is going to challenge me, I have the Indian reports. I will tell you that Mufti Said as the Chief Minister of India and the Interior Minister of India has less than 6,000 people in his janazah. If anyone challenges me, I have the facts. So what I am saying, the people of Kashmir, they have the facts on their side. So that's why any international person, day before yesterday, just day before yesterday, the Foreign Minister of Austria, not Australia, Foreign Minister of Austria, in Vienna, he said that Kashmir is a very dangerous issue. India and Pakistan must find the solution of Kashmir. Who made him to say it? Not because you told him or I told him, because he knows it's a very dangerous issue. Bill Clinton says not only it's a dangerous issue, he said it's the most dangerous place on earth. And European Parliament delegation, they went to Kashmir. It was sent by the Foreign Relations Committee of European Parliament. They came back. The title of this report, the title, Kashmir, the most beautiful prison on earth. So what I am saying that these reports, they play wonders. They may not change the millions of people, but you don't really need millions and millions of people. But you need few people. Suppose in the Congress, you don't need 435 members of Congress to take your case. You need one leader, but who really understands the whole issue. That one leader, then he will become your main person in the Congress. So that's why, for that matter, in the American society or American Muslim society, we don't need millions of people, but we need few leaders like Professor Dr. Aga Saeed, who can take the lead. And I am telling you, I was just a few weeks back in Houston. It was by Islamic Circle of North America. And they were ready there to help the Kashmir cause. Now it is my responsibility. They are ready to give it. I have to give them the plan. So the plan is we have to be very active on university campuses and college campuses and Pakistani American Society, Pakistani Student Association, Muslim Student Association, for that matter even the mainstream student association. So they can play a very wonder. This march yesterday which was going on in Washington DC, you see, throughout the country, I was just watching that on C-SPAN. So there were, mashallah, 4 or 5 Mahbuba, our sisters. So they were as brilliant and as articulate as anyone else. What does that mean? That means that we have the asset, we have the potential, but the only thing is that how can we articulate that potential into reality.
Dr. Nabi Fai, thank you very much. This has been a wonderful conversation. Ladies and gentlemen, this is we will continue this conversation on Kashmir. We are raising the global consciousness, American consciousness on this issue, and we are honored that the youth and that good-hearted Americans and people from around the world are taking up this issue. So with that, thank you again, Dr. Nabi Fai, and thank you again. This is Hazem Kira with Global Forum TV. All the best.